Let's talk about the fundamentals of mixing. Hey everybody, I'm TC from TCMuze.com. If you're new around here, I make videos to help new beat makers, producers, and songwriters make music more effectively and efficiently. All right, so let's talk about mixing. But first, a disclaimer. I'm not a professional mixer, but I will share with you the tips and tricks that work for me and anything else that I've picked up along the way. Okay, now that we got the disclaimer out the way, there's 4 things that we need to consider before even starting our mix. And we need to do this for every mix that we do. The first thing that we need to do is to have an overall vision of what we want the mix to sound like before we even start. The second thing that we want to do is have reference tracks. That way we have like a North Star or a guidepost in regards to where we want to finish. The third thing that we want to do is implement a repeatable process. That's what we're going to go through today. If we have a repeatable process, we're able to figure out what worked last time, implement that in the next mix, and what didn't work the first time, we'll stay away from that in the next mix. That way, every time you mix, you get a little bit smarter, you get a little bit better. And the fourth thing that we want to do is edit our tracks before we get to mixing. That means getting rid of any clicks, pops, noises, and for vocals, it even means tuning your vocals before you get to the mix stage. Okay, now that we got the disclaimer out of the way and we've discussed the 4 principal items that we need before we start mixing, let's jump into the DAW. Now, before I start mixing, the first thing I like to do is gain stage. Now, all that means is that all my levels across the track are about the same level. So what I do is I set all my faders to 0 or whatever the default position is for your DAW. And then I just hit play and I make sure all the levels are about at this 0 dB range. You may like 3 dB, you may like 6 dB, but whatever you do, try to get it just a little bit above 50% of your fader level. And also just do it every time at the same level for every mix that you have. I'm gonna hit play and we're gonna see that most of my volume level is at this 0 level here. Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just wanna make it better. I just wanna make it better. Now, as you can see, some of the items were above 0 just a little bit. Some were below 0, but that's okay. We want to get a rough level. There's dynamics to every instrument that you play, so it's not going to be perfectly at 0. We just want it to be in the similar range. All right, now that we have our gain staging taken care of, what I like to do is find the busiest level of my mix and then just mix that and then move back to the other sections that are less busy. Between 11 and 19 is the busiest section for this track. And then what I do is after I got my gain staging done, I pull everything down to its mute level. That's negative infinity in my DAW. All right, and then what I do is I try to prioritize what are the most important elements of this song. So if you're dealing with anything with vocals, vocals are number 1. They're gonna be the highest priority. We're gonna set those aside and then look at what's my highest priority melodic element, and then what's my highest priority percussive element. So in this track, the guitar is gonna be at highest priority for melodics, and the kick is going to be our highest priority in regards to the percussive elements. So I know I said vocals were number 1, but they're actually going to be the second thing that I mix in here. I always start with my kick and I just set it at negative 3 dB. So we're just going to see what we have here at negative 3, and then we're going to mix the vocals in to be just above the kick to taste. Oh, you know what? Before we get to that, let's look at one other thing. You see over here, I have in my references. I'm not going to play them. Don't want to get a copyright strike, but I do have my reference tracks in. And the one thing I want to share with you, or hope that you keep in mind with when you add your references, is that you need to pull the levels of your reference track down, because your reference tracks have most likely been mastered are going to be much louder than your initial mix. So I have my reference tracks down to like negative 9.5. So we're just going to get rid of those. We don't need to see those on the mix board. and we're going to get back to what we were talking about, setting our initial levels. So I have my kick set at -3 dB, and I'm just going to blend in the vocals to taste. I just want to make it better. I just want to make it better. Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just want to make it better. I just want to make it better. Let me show you. Okay, we're going to start there. Again, this is an iterative process, so we'll come back to this, make some adjustments as we go on, but that's a good place to start. So like I said, now that I've added my percussive element, my vocals, I'm going to put in my main melodic element, and that should sit right behind the vocals, just supporting the vocals, but never over the vocals. Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just want to make it better. I just want to make it better. Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just want to make it better. I just want to make it better. All right, so we have that. Now what we're going to do is add in the other percussive elements. And then after that, we'll go to the bass. We'll just do this really quickly. Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. Now what we want to do with these elements is we want them to complement what the big three that we already have set up there. We don't want anything louder than the kick, louder than the vocals, or louder than the melodic element. We just want to add those in to be in support of those three elements. Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just want to make it better. I just want to make it better. All right, now we're going to add in the bass, which can be tricky, especially in home studio recordings and home studio mixes. You can easily go overboard with the bass. So what I like to do is add a little less than what I think I'm going to need. And then I'll compare it to my references to see, do I need to add more, take more away? It just depends. It's definitely a trial and error type of process when dealing with bass. Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just want to make it better. I just want to make it better. There you go. I got it to where I thought it was good, and then I pulled back because I may have overdone it. But again, iterative process. We'll see what it sounds like at the end. Next thing to do is to add in the last supportive element. That's going to be that piano. And we want to put that in right just behind the guitar because it's in support of just the rhythm and the movement of the song. Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just want to make it better. I just want to make it better. Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just want to make it better. And there we go. We have a pretty decent balance. You should get in the process of just balancing your mixes, pulling them back down, just getting rid of them and rebalancing them, just to get an ear of where you think things should be and how quickly can you get them there. You shouldn't be afraid to start over when you're mixing or you're balancing, especially in this early stage. But now that we got a good balance together, the next thing that we need to do is probably do a little corrective EQ, or what I like to call cleanup, because we're not making any corrections. We're just getting rid of stuff that we don't like. So what I do with that is basically use a high pass filter. Some people call it a low cut. So really all that's doing is getting rid of low end mud on the tracks that aren't bass tracks or the kick track. We don't need any low end information there. So we'll shave that away. So I start by just adding in an EQ. The EQ that I like to use a lot is the Waves F6 RTA. And what that does is that it has like a spectral analyzer. So it shows you across the frequency range how your track is responding or where the energy is within your track along the frequency range. So anything that is below this 250, we can probably cut off. or at least start shaving off. 150 is a safe place to kind of just shave things off that aren't bass elements. So let's take a listen to this guitar. I'm going to shave off to around 250, and then I'm going to A-B it, and you'll be able to hear how muddy it makes the track. Even though you don't notice it at first, it probably sounds good, but once you start bypassing it, you'll hear that, oh, there's a lot of information in the low end that the guitar has that we don't need. Let's take a listen.
Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just wanna make it better. I just wanna make it better.
All right, now I'm gonna do this quick A-B. I'm gonna start with it on, and then I'm gonna take the equalizer off, and you're gonna hear all that mud come back in on the guitar. Just listen to the guitar and listen to how the bass frees up.
Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just wanna make it better. I just wanna make it better. Let me show you just how I feel.
So you can hear all that low end mud that we're taking out. And then we just go ahead and do the same for the piano, the snare, the hi-hat. We want to keep the kick and bass. We don't need to put a low pass on there because those are the low frequency instruments that we want to clear up room for. When I started mixing, this technique was something that was told to me that I didn't really get until later, but you want to cut twice as much as you boost. And for me, I look at cutting as the fundamental part of mixing. You want to get rid of the frequency. So let's just go ahead and do these same cuts on the piano and the other non-low frequency items.
Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just wanna make it better. I just wanna make it better. Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just wanna make it better.
So you see how that cleaned up the piano? Let's put one here on the snare and another one here on the hi-hat. Let's start with the hi-hat. There really shouldn't be anything there.
Let me show you just how I feel.
Yeah, nothing there, but we're gonna keep this EQ move on here just as a safety net to make sure there's nothing sneaking in there. Now we're gonna look at the snare. All right, let's bypass it.
Let me show you just how.
You see that hit? There's a ton of mud under the 250 area. I didn't even hear it in there, but with the spectral analyzer, you hear it. Or at least with the frequency analyzer, you hear it.
Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just wanna make it better.
Now on that snare, there's a lot of dirt in there under the 250 range. Under the 250 range, I didn't even hear it, but you can see it here with this frequency analyzer. So I'm just gonna go ahead and engage that low cut, and then I'm gonna cut some of that out.
Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just wanna make it better. I just wanna make it.
All right, cool. Now that we have a decent balance and a few little clean up EQ moves, I think we're at a point where we can do some aesthetic EQ moves just to make it match the genre that we're going for. Like I noticed in that snare, there's some high-end piercing type of sound. I'm gonna roll off some of the highs by using the opposite of a low cut. I'm gonna use a high cut or a low pass. And I'm just gonna pull that off to taste so it's no longer so piercing.
Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just wanna make it better. I just wanna make it better.
Okay, that sounds good, but after I make that change, I think I need to raise the volume of the snare up a little bit.
Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just wanna make it better. I just wanna make.
Yeah, so I just added 2 dBs, went from -9 to -7. So I think we're there. We're at a good place. Let's see if there's anything else that I want to make a change to.
Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just wanna make it better. I just wanna make it better. Let me show you.
I think that piano is just a little too bright in some spots, so I'm going to do the same thing with that piano. I'm going to put a high frequency cut on there and pull it off the taste.
Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just wanna make it better. I just wanna make it better. Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel.
Yeah, I think we're good there. I'm gonna just take a quick second to go over my lead vocals. What I have here is I have like a preset that I've already made up. So every time I put it on, it gets me 90% of the way there. So the first thing that's there is a gate. Then I have a tuner to make sure my vocals are in tune. Don't really do anything here. Just make the note transition speed a little bit faster than the default. And then we come to some corrective EQ where I'm cutting off down here to, how far am I cutting off? To like 140, 150. And then I'm making, with vocals, you kind of have to make them sparkle. So you do need to boost your vocals. You find out what area works for you without adding too much sibilance. And then from there, I just go through a series of compressors. None of the compressors are doing more than like 2 to 3 beat of work. I go to RVox, which just helps tame everything. I go to an 1176 after that. That gives it a little bit of a character, just a little bit of a bite with that fast attack and quick release. And then finally, I smooth everything out with a LA2A. Putting together a vocal chain is like a video in itself. So I'll save that for another video. Right now, we have a decent blend, a decent mix. And I think that's where we need to leave it for the fundamentals of mixing. Sometimes when you're getting into mixing, you can get overwhelmed with automation, throwing effect sends and this, that, and the other. But you see what we did? We did with relative ease with a few basic fundamental items. So the EQs and the volume fader was the only thing that we needed. So I think that's what I'm going to leave you with. Try to keep it simple. Try to only use the fundamentals that you need to begin with. Remember, less is more. And that's enough for our first go around at the fundamentals of mixing using just volume and EQ. Anyway, we'll catch y'all next time.
Let me show you just how I feel. Let me show you just how I feel. I just wanna make it better. I just wanna make it better.